I woke up and walked away. The turning point came yesterday, like something from a storybook, where everybody turned to look. But I can feel this changing. I feel like I let you down.
To move forward with this, I need you to know what you're worth. Your purpose and effort will be priceless. You will make the difference, and this is your choice. We absolutely need to break away from the Federal Reserve System. We need to continue what the Founding Fathers intended for this nation. See, the Bank of England, who was the crown, essentially, these are the men that our Founding Fathers fled from. False flag attacks through scenarios that were propped up to make the people think that there was a situation that didn't really exist. They've been doing the good cop, bad cop thing for a very long time. And many of the first presidents fought against it. Centralized banking was not an option to people like Thomas Jefferson. Their vision was that everyone live in liberty. And liberty is the ability to live your life in the way that you choose, only to be inhibited by the ability of your fellow man to do the same. So anything that would cause harm or impede someone else's way of life, it has to meet and make a fence line there. All the laws of our nation can be judged, either criminal or not, by this very idea of liberty. It's not money itself. Money is a representation of the trade or exchange, a weighted value. So what we're really dealing with here isn't money as much as the fact that we can't equate values. Need and necessity create instances where things become more valuable or less valuable. Our place is not to impose a higher price or cost or false value into items just because somebody else needs it. If someone needs something, we need to distribute it to them. And then they can reciprocate that, but not as an expectation. They return the favor when you need it, but as a conscious thought for someone else to think to do that for you, as you should for someone else. This whole exchange trade is destroying us. It's worked its way into the way that we look at relationships within religion, within science, within everything. Now, in nature, things are exchanged, not willingly most of the time. When a creature forages for food, through its process of foraging, it actually creates food for other creatures as well. And then again in its death, really through its whole process, it is creating situations where other life can thrive. And that's the direction we need to go. What we need to do is grow up. The way we're living is it's worse than the children. You could put a group of kids in a playroom and they would function better than we do. This system is not set to provide sustenance or satisfaction. It is set up to breed an imbalanced proportion of need and desperation to create a profit margin. There is a group of extremely wealthy people who have most of the money. It trickles down into the middle class, and then what little's left to the poor. And that's the way capitalism runs, and it has to run like that because you have a set amount of money. If you gave everybody equal amount of money, then money means nothing because everybody has the same amount of money. So nobody's going to make any more. So you have to have this deficit of poverty to create the whole system of capitalism. Any kind of government that you could think of, fascist, socialist, communist, dictatorships, they're all the same. If you have money involved, trade involved, you have to have a group of poverty. That's just the way it is. There will always be corruption as long as there's something to gain from it. Even in a system with no money, there will still be corruption. The goal is just to minimize it. We've been manipulated for a very long time. What it boils down to is that we're making a choice. This choice that we're making to not be responsible. It's been sporadically visible at times to see that we should do things differently, but we don't have time to do things differently because they keep us running all the time. You can see just how the conversations have changed on Facebook alone. You can see people thinking and talking about things that they don't normally talk about. Philosophical aspects, spiritual aspects, political, all of it is blooming. And though you're fighting about different things and debating issues, that's good. Because we weren't before, hardly. So what it boils down to is this choice. And that's what I'm giving you right now, each and every one of you. The choice to stand up when the odds are against us at the last minute. So here's the plan. Number one, you need to build your skills and abilities. You need to start researching survival skills, put them into practice, create a emergency plan for you and your family, make a small survival kit, first aid, clothes, blankets, tent, that kind of stuff. Just whatever you would need in a survival situation. Not to say that we'll need that, but I think it's just a good idea in general to have. And plus, in this time of uncertainty with the pandemic, building your skills will eliminate some of the fears that you have. It'll build your confidence and eliminate a little bit of fear. Create new friendships, network, social networking, and building relationships within your group of friends. Pay attention to their quirks of personality and the way that they act normally. Because if they're in trouble or they need help with something and they're not saying, or if they do something out of the ordinary, like they ask to meet you for coffee and you show up and they don't, and you don't hear from them, don't write off strange behavior anymore. Don't justify strange actions or things that normally happen that are routine in your neighborhood, and then suddenly it changes and doesn't feel right. Take note of it and check up on each other, and just make sure everything's okay. Number three, is stop accepting payment and trade. Any form of dealing that has an expectation of getting something in return for what we're giving. We want to be able to just give to the people that need it. Each one of us needs to survive. We are all as important as the next. That doesn't mean that you should hold back if you have excess. If you have excess, then pass it on if you see somebody else that needs it. But don't cut yourself short either, unless it's completely necessary that you do so. We continue to work. We go back to our jobs when they release us back to work. We go back to work, but we take no paycheck. We will be working for free. And those of us that don't have jobs will need to get jobs. Those of us that are working, continue to work. CEOs and big business. When this goes into effect, you need to begin redirecting your processes, manufacturing, towards a goal of achieving a product not limited by money, better products that can facilitate what we need to do. And it's okay to be conservative right now because we'll probably need to be just to conserve resources for the moment. Immediately we need to put effort into making electric vehicles, making electricity safe, making its production safe, making all facets of the energy situation more efficient and less waste. And as I said, like with the animals, how their processes when they're foraging for food or the things that they're doing in nature provide life for other things, as should our processes be too. The byproducts of what we're doing should be able to be reused or put into another form or process, or laid back to the earth in a way that isn't going to hurt it. It isn't going to take millions of years to return that energy to the earth. CEOs of the world, it is of the utmost importance that you line up beside us as well. I understand that money drives your business, but now you can really drive your business. Your heart can drive the business. Your dreams, your visions are not limited by money. Things may take more time, for sure, but we're not making this world for us. All of us that are going to take part in this, we're not doing this for us, we're doing it for everybody that comes after us. We're going to have to take the hardship, we're going to take the brunt of all of this, but it's for the right reasons, and it's for our children and our children's children. It's to do what we should have done in the first place. And I know that you didn't start it, and that I didn't start the situation, none of us did, and things aren't fair, and things won't be equal. The weight won't be distributed evenly. Some people will have to do more than others. That's just life. Don't look at it like somebody else is getting away with something, or they don't have to work as hard as you do. That doesn't really matter, because what we're doing is just more important than that. It's so much more important than that. Groceries and gas must not be hoarded. We can't afford to over-prepare for things, because it will limit us in the long run on products that we need for people to survive. Grocery stores will allow people to come in and take the items that they need, take them responsibly. Do not hoard, do not stockpile. We all need these items, so they need to be available. Distribution needs to continue the way that it did. Manufacturing needs to continue the way that it did, until we can line everything in to a scope that is manageable without money. And the pandemic is a good learning experience right now. We can see that we've affected our supply chain with hoarding of products. This is due to the limit that money puts on us. Manufacturers can't afford to manufacture at a high rate of speed due to the wages that are expended on workers and on products. It limits us in so many ways. The inability to get product or to get emergency medical equipment and medicines is all dependent on the money, on how the money's flowing, where it's flowing to, who can afford what. Life should not be dependent upon the amount of money that you have to survive. The other side of this is that there is not to be a limit put on product, on what you can have. When we put limits on things, it's pretty much saying that we're too immature to make a responsible choice on what is necessary. That's the whole problem. That's why we use money in the first place, is that it takes place of our responsibility or our maturity. It allows us to function because we can't function on our own. It's just time to grow the fuck up. Those of you in positions of foreign relations, I recommend that you really develop those relations to the fullest, because we want everybody to be a part of this. We need all people. And that doesn't matter race, culture, color, religious beliefs, spirituality, customs. None of that matters. What matters is that we all put ourselves into a position that we can cultivate the world. The American government, I've told you before, I don't believe that the government is in control of their actions. I think that they have to accommodate the wishes of the Federal Reserve in all practice. The American government and the state governments will now be taking on a huge responsibility. We can hold the weight long enough for you to free yourself from the stranglehold of the Federal Reserve. We won't be able to hold it for long. I think 6 months would be really pushing it. So you need to do what you need to do quickly. Redesign programs to move away from the Federal Reserve. That should be easier to create now without money. Figure out how we're going to get everybody into homes when there are plenty of homes. I think the number is 500 to 700,000 homeless people in the United States. And there's 1.5 million vacant houses. I don't think we should have a problem. And also to facilitate foreign relations and see what everybody there needs in the other countries and what we can do for them and what they can do for us. Not as a deal, but as a friendship of people just doing for each other, applying the band-aids where they need to be without being compensated. So we can hold the line and keep the machine running, but you'll have to move quickly. We'll need to infuse the economy one last time. We'll take the last of the money that we have, withdraw it from the banks. Either way that it has to happen, you can buy product with it, whatever, but we have to put it all back into the economy so that it can get back to the federal government, and we will take no money in return for anything. That way our debt is clear. me first start by saying there will be no offensive violence done by the civilian population. We all need to be in defense mode, because they will be coming. I'm sure the people will be paid to create scenarios of criminality within neighborhoods, within the country, to make us think that things are not functioning and that we can't function without money and the banks. They're going to push this hard. They will show you scenarios, criminal activity. They'll pay people to do crimes. The greed is bound within them. We need to separate ourselves from that. And this is going to be a huge weight on the police force, on military forces. Yours will be a very hard position to be in. The orders that you receive may be according to an agenda that is not one that you would like. So I ask you to just be discriminate of right and wrong, and that your job is to protect and serve the civilian population. And this is also why it's so important for us to not create any violence whatsoever, because we don't want to be confused with those that are creating criminal activities and creating violent scenarios. That does us absolutely no good to be arrested or thought criminal. But we will defend when the criminals come and when the banks come. But as long as we just don't go back to money, we win. We will have won the moment we stop using money. They can create the criminal scenarios all they want. They can create false narratives. Everything they can do, they will do to drive us back to money. But as long as we don't take it, we will have won. The system is not set up to breed good behavior. It's set up to breed bad behavior. Everything we do is to frustrate us, to make us have this sense of dissatisfaction and need. And they do this through frustrating us with the processes that are so ridiculous and time-consuming and immobile. We've never seen what we can be outside of a world of money. And I want to see that.